the ice moving, although it's a foot or more deep here in the bay. Last week, one day, when I was more troubled than usual, I walked out towards the edge of the ice, where it meets the open sea, now stretching for a mile beyond the outermost skerry. That means that the ice here in the bay ought not to have been moving at all, but in fact it was rising and falling, creaking, and singing. I listened to this sound, and it occurred to me that my life has passed very fast. Now I'm here, a man aged 66, financially independent, burdened with a memory that plagues me constantly. I grew up in desperate circumstances that are impossible to imagine nowadays in Sweden. My father was a browbeaten and overweight waiter, and my mother spent all her time trying to make ends meet. I succeeded in clambering out of that pit of poverty. As a child, I used to play out here in the archipelago every summer, and had no concept of time passing. In those days, my grandfather and grandmother were still active. They hadn't yet aged to a point where they were unable to move and merely waited for death. He smelled of fish, and she had no teeth left. Although she was always kind to me, there was something frightening about her smile, the way her mouth opened to reveal a black hole. It seems not so long ago since I was in the first act. Now the epilogue has already started. The ice was singing out there in the darkness, and I wondered if I was about to suffer a heart attack. I got up and took my blood pressure. There was nothing wrong with me. The reading was 155/90. My pulse was normal at 64 beats per minute. I felt to see if I had a pain anywhere. My left leg ached slightly, but it always does, and it's not something I worry about. But the sound of the ice out there was influencing my mood, like an eerie choir made up of strange voices. I sat down in the kitchen and waited for dawn. The timbers of the cottage were creaking and squeaking. Either the cold was causing the timber to contract, or perhaps a mouse was scurrying along one of its secret passages. The thermometer attached to the outside of the kitchen window indicated -19 degrees Celsius. I decide that today I shall do exactly what I do every other winter day. I put on my dressing gown, thrust my feet into a pair of cut-down Wellington boots, collect my axe, and walk down to the jetty. It doesn't take long to open up my hole in the ice. The area I usually chip away hasn't had time to freeze hard again. Then I undress and jump into the slushy water. It hurts, but when I clamber out, it feels as if the cold has been transformed into intensive heat. Every day I jump down into my black hole in order to get the feeling that I'm still alive. Afterwards, it's as if my loneliness slowly fades away. One day, perhaps, I shall die of the shock from plunging into freezing cold water. As my feet reach the bottom, I can stand up in the water. I shan't disappear under the ice. I shall remain standing there as the ice quickly freezes up again. That's where Janssen, the man who delivers post to the islands in the archipelago, will find me. No matter how long he lives, he will never understand what happened. But I don't worry about that. I've arranged my home out here on the little island I inherited as an impregnable fortress. When I climb the hill behind my house, I can see directly out to sea. There's nothing there but tiny islands and rocks, their low backs just about visible over the surface of the water, or the ice. If I look in the other direction, I can see the more substantial and less inhospitable islands of the inner archipelago. But nowhere is there any other dwelling to be seen. Needless to say, this isn't how I'd envisaged it. This house was going to be my summer cottage, not my final redoubt. Every morning, when I've cut my hole in the ice or lowered myself down into the warm waters of summer, I'm again amazed by what has happened to my life.